Well, hi everyone. Babula and I are back again. We're going to be talking about the new moon in Leo this time and a whole lot of other things. So, Babula, there's so much going on. Sometimes it's really hard to get clarity about things, and I think that's where the value of astrology comes in, isn't it? That it can help you see these points along the way, these markers.
Definitely, absolutely is. And as we've been speaking about for some months now, you know, it is a massive year astrologically speaking. And I mean, that's demonstrated in just everything that's happening this year. And it really does help to, you know, follow the movement of the planets and how they're aligning themselves with each other and changing signs and so on, and to make a bit of sense of it all. And it doesn't always necessarily provide definite answers, but it does help us to understand and process and come to terms, I think, in many ways with what's happening.
Yeah. So what do we have to process in August?
Oh, right.
Half of August.
Yeah, well, it's we might sort of go straight to the new moon, because that occurs in the eastern states of Australia on the 19th, which is Wednesday, the 19th. At 12:41 p.m. is the actual moment of the new moon itself. And so we're now in the, you know, and so that day or two before the exact new moon is called the balsamic phase of the moon, when the moon is darkening. You know, the amount of light that she has just gets smaller and smaller, and she fades down to just a slither, and then there's no moon for a few nights. So that's the dark of the moon, and that's where we are. And it's traditionally always, you know, regarded as a time where it's good to rest or withdraw from outer activity, or at the very least not to begin big new important projects. You know, it's more of a time of withdrawal, which isn't always easy in our life, or, you know, cleaning out things and emptying. It's the end of a cycle, so it's about emptying out and releasing.
Is there a little bit less of that because it's the new moon in Leo? Because Leo really wants to get out there, doesn't it, normally?
Yeah, it certainly does have that kind of feeling. You know, Leo's ruled by the sun, and the sun's job is to shine and radiate, you know, and express energy. It's a source of energy. And actually, the sun and Leo are like an energy furnace. And there's a wonderful word in it that astrology uses to describe the sun, which rules Leo. It's the planet that vivifies. It's life-giving. Yeah. You know, that's beautiful. And so when the sun and the moon come together in Leo, which they do on the 19th at 26 degrees of Leo, then there is this tremendous energy of light and life force and energy and vitality that's available then for the coming 4-week cycle. And I would suggest and recommend to people that to have a look at, you know, what do I need in this cycle? Like, the focus is actually on ourselves in some way, not necessarily, I'm not speaking like in a selfish way. It's just like, what's going to bring me the most joy? What's going to make me feel alive? And I was just, someone commented just recently about how helpful it is just to be silly sometimes. And it's like, it gives us a dose of happiness. If we watch little children, which is a very Leo thing, how they will just laugh like 100 times a day at many, many things. And when we can get into that space with them, you know, life's a lot more fun, and we get to laugh and play. So laughter and play and fun is very familiar and known in the sign of Leo. And so I would really invite everyone and encourage and inspire everyone to, I mean, the sun's been in Leo for weeks now, and it's still got, it's in Leo until the 30th of August, when it'll go into Virgo, and I'll talk about that later. So there's still a bit of time while the sun's in Leo, but on this new moon, I think maybe take a day or two off and go, what do I need? You know, like if you have some kind of artistic practice or something and you never find time for it, maybe take a day or two out to just do that. Whether it's music or some form of art, or go through your wardrobe and chuck out all the things that are old and boring that you don't wear and get some color going, you know? Like just things like that that can help to lift our spirits and sort of light that sun energy. If you're lucky enough to, like I'm looking out the window now here in Brisbane and the sun is just glorious. It's shining down. We've had rain, everything's sparkling. So if we can get out in it and drink that energy in, that's what this energy is actually about. In spite of everything that's going on in the world, we still have that innate capacity to find joy and happiness and delight, you know, like the sunshine. And even on a cloudy day, the sun is still there, just waiting for the clouds to part.
You may just have to work a little harder at the moment at getting...
Yes, finding the joy.
Yeah.
That's right. And it can be as simple as, you know, look, you know what? I've been wearing grey and dark blue. I think I'm going to put on some red and orange or hot pink or something today. You know, like just making a few different choices to zhuzh things up a bit. You know, because it really does help. And I think, you know, even things like lighting some candles, like it's light, bring in the light, the flame, the fire in some way.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, good advice. Yeah.
Mm. It's really helpful because, you know, at this time, it's very easy to sort of sink down in despair and fear and anxiety, but that's not really helpful. That doesn't make us feel very vivified and enlivened at all. So I think it's a really important thing for us all to keep remembering, how can I reignite this sort of passion and joy and play, even in the middle of this, you know, whatever anyone who's watching this, whatever your circumstances are. And I fully acknowledge that for some people it's not great.
Yeah. Because this is the moon though, you know, could those things bubble up from within? You know, because the moon represents the unconscious.
Yes.
You know, there's those sorts of things to be triggered that are within us, because we do have joy in us. It's just that at times the oppression of the circumstances in our life, you know, suppress it.
That's right. They feel like they're sort of on top of us. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So sometimes it's just small things like, I think if we all look, we all know the little things that can make us happy. For me, sometimes I'll just put on my favourite reggae music. I discovered a new reggae band earlier this year through a friend, and it just makes me feel happy. And I can feel, if I can feel myself just getting tense or stressed or anxious, I go, no, I need a dance break. Dance break, and put on some music and just go a bit silly for a while, and it really shifts. And so, you know, we all have our things, number of things, or, you know, I will go and paint. I'm fortunate to have a spare bedroom here and it's set up with canvases and paints. And again, I'll put on the music and get out paints that make me feel good and just make a mess and slush paint around. And without trying hard to make something fabulous, I just go and have some fun like a child, like a kid. And we all know, I think, what those things are for us.
Yeah. Well, mine's that song Happy by Pharrell Williams. I just love that song.
That's exactly right.
Song, greatest pick-me-up that I have ever had for me, that works for me.
It's amazing. And look how it just exploded around the planet when it came out. Yeah. And look, doing something like making a compilation of songs that make you happy, you know, that get you moving and lift spirits. And, you know, think dance like nobody's watching, or if you're very Leo, dance like everybody's watching. You know, and let your hair down, you know, and that kind of thing. Like me and my daughter and the two littlies, often we will have a dance party, you know, and put on skirts and whatever and twirl around, and it's just fun, and that's that childlike quality. So I think that's really helpful medicine for us. And so this new moon, I think, is an invitation. I mean, Leo is also, of course, about leadership. So that's another side of it. You know, we do know this is Leo the Lion. It's a powerful sign. It's one of the 4 fixed signs. It's in the 3 fire signs, it's the fixed sign. So that means it holds a lot of power. And that can also mean I have to it's important that I honor who I am and stand strong in that, you know, the light, the central sun of myself, of my soul, and who I am as this being here, you know, and to, you know, connect with that sort of sense of true identity and inner authority and so on, and give expression to that in whatever way we feel to do that.
Yeah, I guess, and I guess that Leo gives us confidence to be who we are.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So shining, you know, shine on, everybody. That's what I say about the Leo new moon. Shine on.
Oh yeah, tick. Okay, what else can we have?
That's great. So then, so that new moon's on the and the new moon is with Mercury. You know, Mercury's sitting right there with the moon and the sun. So Mercury is our voice. So I think that is absolutely part of this. Like I was just sort of pointing to before. For some, it might be I need to speak, or I need to write, creative writing, or there's something I need to say to someone that I haven't said yet because I've been holding back. Or, you know, like, what is the creative expression that wants to come through the voice? Because the following day, then Mercury is going to leave Leo and go into Virgo. And then a few days after, well, 10 days after that, on the 30th, no, that's not right. That's not correct. It's not the 30th. It would be around the 21st, 22nd, the sun will go into Virgo. So the sun and Mercury have only got a few days still in the sign of Leo, and then there will be a shift into Virgo energy. And that's such an interesting juxtaposition of signs, because when we go from one sign to the next, there's an absolute definite change in the energy. And signs that sit next to each other in the zodiac have virtually nothing in common. So Leo is fire, Virgo is earth. Leo is a fixed sign, Virgo is a mutable sign. Leo is a yang energy, and Virgo is a yin or feminine energy. So they're very different.
Yeah. And
it's like, well, after all the sort of da-da energy of Leo, we come into a more sort of subdued, and I don't mean subdued in a negative sense at all, but it's a quieter energy. If you think of any Virgos, you know, they're usually quiet, unless they have a lot of fire. It's quiet. It's not sort of big and out there like Leo.
No, it's very sober too, isn't it?
It is actually, and it's very sensitive. It's a very sensitive sign, which people often miss because it has a reputation for being just incredibly critical. You know, and nitpicking and overly fussy, and, you know.
I'm thinking of a few people.
There you go, you know, and a little bit kind of OCD in that sort of a way. You know, have those, you know, all signs have their tendencies, let's face it, it's everyone.
Yeah.
But really Virgo is it took me a long time to sort of really understand all the different permutations of this sign. And it's really a sign that's about fine-tuning our skills, fine-tuning our health, paying attention to subtleties, to the little things. You know, it's like that saying of the divine is in the little things. It's the little things of our day-to-day existence that Virgo is all about. And that's why Virgo does see when things aren't right, or they're not clean, or they're not tidy, or they're not where they need to be, because it's actually a very analytical sign. It's ruled by Mercury, and when Mercury comes into Virgo very soon, then there is this natural inclination to want to start to hone in on what needs repair. That's why this is the sign of illness and health and healing and medicine. You know, so it's a really good time to be, it's an earth sign, working in the garden, getting your garden sorted, getting your house sorted, getting the cupboards sorted, cleaning up our diets, you know, Virgo loves routines. Like, this is what I do. These are my routines for the day to maintain my health, my well-being, my work, my business. I go to work and run the office, and this is how I do it, and I have systems, and I'm organized. And I always say that if you were running a business and needed the right person to run your office and be your office manager, pick a Virgo. Like, within 24 hours, I'll have it working like clockwork. It's just the nature. Or they're nurses, they're doctors, they're healers, acupuncturists, dietitians, naturopaths. This is the Virgo energy. So there's going to absolutely be that shift into this very finely tuned. It's actually, the energy of Virgo is actually exquisite. And yes, the negative side of it, as we get with every sign, is to be so overly critical about everything that you never feel you can get anything right for them. That's just like the negative expression of Leo is, it's all about me.
Yeah.
So, the earth, nature, the environment, the land, plants, food, health, herbs, natural food, getting your health checked and so on and so on. And health is a big topic in 2020. Whatever angle we're looking at that from, it is a big topic. So that's, and the other side of Virgo that I'm always fascinated by is that I began to realize through reading, but also through working with people, and to seeing it in people, that this sign has a very strong connection with what we could call the divine feminine and the goddess. And I see that again and again. And most of my clients and students are women, not all, but, a large percentage of them. And I've just seen this over the years. There is this, it's like Virgo has in it a sense of the sacred. When it's more conscious, there's a sense of the sacredness of life, the sacredness of our bodies as a temple, of the earth as Gaia, the provider, and that she's very finely tuned. The whole idea of biodiversity and so on. Every little tiny creature has its part to play, and it's looking down the microscope and at a little bit of dirt and seeing the multitudinous variations of life going on in there, and they're all important in the environment. That's Virgo. Yeah.
Of course, sometimes they can't see the forest for the trees.
That's right. That's right.
Master complicators because it's all the details.
Exactly. Just lost in detail. Yeah. And so, someone then who is very Virgoan has other things in their chart that can help them sometimes step back and kind of take in a bigger picture view. That's really helpful, because to be just down in this kind of tunnel view all the time. Yeah. But, most of us are made up of a real mixture of things.
That's
thankfully.
Right. Yeah. Very diplomatic.
Thank you. Thank you.
You weaseled out of that hole very well.
Yeah. Practice. So, and the other thing, while I'm on that, when the Sun and Mercury go into Virgo, and Mercury will be very happy in Virgo because he can get really analytical and practical. The mind's going to switch into practical mode and health mode, and want to get organized, and you open your pantry and go, oh God, that needs cleaning, and instead of putting it off, you do it right there and then you feel. That's why Virgos stand back and look at the handiwork after cleaning out the kitchen or something and go, beautiful, perfect. And it gives them a sense of satisfaction and calm. But what I wanted to say was that because we have these three mighty planets in Capricorn putting us all through our paces this year in so many ways, and a Capricorn and Earth sign, and Uranus is in Taurus for these years, an Earth sign. When the Sun and Mercury go into Virgo, we're going to get this big Earth grand trines, or a number of them forming, as the Sun and Mercury make their way for 4 weeks through Virgo, they're going to be lining up with these other planets in the Earth sign. So I think whatever our circumstances are in our life at this point, it is an opportunity to get really practical, pragmatic, grounded, taking care of body, taking care of practical issues. Our work, if someone's running a business, you know, okay, time to get real. Time to get this sorted, organized.
Yeah.
You know, if we're at home and haven't got much opportunity to go out, you know, to make use of that opportunity to focus on health, the practicals, the pragmatics of life. You know, it's a sign that has tremendous efficiency, like it's naturally efficient, but is very prone to stress and anxiety. Because in Virgo we can feel like it's never right.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so if we can be in a state of relaxed efficiency, that's really nice.
It's not too great getting stuck in that perfection mode, because then you're always striving and never arriving.
Because you'll never get it.
Yeah, that's right.
It doesn't exist. That's right.
Mm.
Because you can't fix it in place. You know, life is constantly moving and shifting, and life's messy.
Yeah, that's right. We're always living in a state of flux, aren't we?
That's right. And see, it's a mutable sign, and the mutable signs, you know, and it's opposite Pisces, which is mutable water. The mutable signs are meant to shift and flow and adjust and change, and we're constantly dealing with the ebb and flow and the movement. And even though it's an earth sign, it's like the shifting sands. And, you know, in nature, nature's not static, is she? You know, she's alive, is constantly changing. So that's an important thing to understand in Virgo, that we can strive for perfection, but we can't nail it down and fix it in place. You know, it's going to keep changing. It's going to keep getting messy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we're at, isn't it?
That's right. Life is messy, and humans are messy and complicated. Yeah.
Yes. And life's lumpy too, you know.
Yes.
You'll do nothing will happen for a while, and all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom.
And everything's on. That's right.
That's what we're going through this year, isn't it?
That's right. Like, no matter what anyone's transits are this year, and some are having doozies, overall, this is just day after day, you know, what next? Okay, what now? What now? What now? Just keeps coming.
Yeah.
So that probably brings me to our friend Mars. So Mars is a very busy boy at the moment.
Yeah.
And I've touched on this before, but, you know, there might be somebody new watching this. About 2 months ago, roughly, the planet Mars entered the sign of Aries, his own sign. So when a planet moves into its own sign, like Virgo, Mercury's about to go into Virgo, will be there for 4 weeks. Great, he says, I can do my thing here. This is my territory. Mars is in his own territory. Mars is the ruling planet of Aries. He's now in Aries, and instead of just moving through for about, 7 or 8 weeks, he's actually in Aries now for nearly 7 months, because in September he's going to do a 10-week retrograde phase.
Yeah.
So he's already very powerful in his own sign, but he's going to spend a lot of extra time here, and he's going to go retrograde for 10 weeks. That is super important. And as he does that, he's making some conjunctions with some very interesting planets and so on in Aries, and making big, dynamic, quite difficult squares to the planets in Capricorn. And, I've been running a 3-part online series all about Aries and Mars, because I just feel it's a really important thing to talk about. And it's not an easy thing to talk about. We have a tendency, particularly in general women, because Mars is a masculine energy that's in all of us, but also because Mars, by the ancients, was called a malefic, meaning he's sort of given this there's this notion that he's a problem and a troublemaker, and he absolutely can be, because Mars, after all, is the god of war. And, you know, or any images we have of Mars Ares, the god, the Roman Greek god, you know, he's in battle dress, ready for battle, sword, spear, helmet, breastplate, shield, you know, the works. And so Mars is a fiery energy in the very fiery Aries, doing this journeying with Chiron in Aries, with the Black Moon in Aries, with Eris in Aries, and making these long series of squares to the planets in Capricorn. So manifestations or expressions of Aries that we can see around us are anger, aggression, violence, war, guns, weapons, soldiers,
explosions, like
absolutely explosions, you know, bombs, things like that. So it's not an easy energy, and some people would rather not, would almost like to avoid even looking at it, you know, even astrologically. And I just think it's so important that we address it, you know, because it's here. I mean, it always is. Mars is always active. We all have Mars in our chart. And it's a really healthy thing for us to come to terms with our own inner Mars energy, our own anger, our frustration, our desire nature, you know, our impulses that are not tamed, that you know, the culture and the world tries to tame it. But it's like there is such a thing as a really healthy, necessary expression of Mars. When we understand our Mars and have processed it and worked with it and done a lot of healing perhaps around it, sometimes that's necessary too, particularly now with Chiron and Aries, to heal that energy in men and women and in the world. Healthy Mars allows us to stand up for ourselves, to speak up, to not cower and back down in fear. Even if there is fear, you know, to go, no, I have to meet this, you know, and we actually feel more alive. When we're afraid of our own Mars energy or Mars around us, we can collapse, you know. And I know what I'm talking about because that's how I was most of my young life. And, you know, we all know what that feels like to just, oh, that's too much. I don't want that coming at me, and I don't want to know, but certainly don't want to know about it in me. So we can deny our own anger, deny our own desires, deny our own willpower, which is Mars as well. And so it goes into the shadow. And when Mars becomes the shadow, then we might have, you know, angry dreams. We might find ourselves like, why are all these angry people around me? You know, why is my partner angry? Why have I got such an angry child? You know, he's always screaming and yelling and fighting. And if you look at this really deeply, you know, psychologically and in the light of the shadow, you know, Carl Jung's work around the shadow, there's something repressed and denied in yourself that's not met and healed and understood. And when we come into our own Mars energy and understand it and understand how it works and how to use it well and appropriately when it's needed, then we have less difficulty with that energy around us. You know, it's a really important thing, I think, and because it's here. And in 2020, the whole second half of 2020, Mars is here. His presence is very, very evident, and we all have to deal with that somehow, you know.
Yeah. So if it's not expressed, because it's like it's almost like a release valve, isn't it, on the present?
Yes.
You know, and I'm thinking, going back to Virgo that's coming up, Mars going into Virgo, I mean, we could see earthquakes. That's a possibility.
Well, that's right, but particularly with Uranus in Taurus and this strong Mars energy too. Like it's like Mars is making squares to Pluto. It's making squares to Jupiter. You know, the big explosion in Beirut happened on the first Jupiter-Mars square, and it wasn't just a little explosion. You know, if you saw the video, it was massive. It was like an atomic bomb gun.
Yeah.
And it was like first there was like a small explosion, and then it just blew and caused massive destruction. So that's real.
Yeah.
That's a real expression of Mars. It's also a metaphor. It's also symbolic, you know, for us all. And it can bring up explosive energies in us, in the collective and individually, and in our personal life, in our families, in our relationships. So we need to be aware of it. We need to be a little wary of it, but not afraid. You know, we need to, like with everything, and I think this year, more than any year we've ever had, this is the year for deep personal growth and transformation. You know, if we are not doing our own work, we're not going to cope with 2020 very well. You know, and Mars is an important piece of this, and to meet that energy in ourselves. And sometimes it can be as simple, like, I'm just feeling so frustrated, and then the body, because Mars Aries is the body, the muscles, the blood. And maybe we just need to go outside and go for a vigorous walk and swear and curse under our breath and just walk it out, let the body work it out.
Yeah.
If you go to the gym, you know, literally you might need to go and punch a punching bag, or just do some vigorous exercise, or put on loud music. Drumming is great for Mars.
Yeah.
Dance it out, you know, yell if you're somewhere where the neighbours aren't going to freak out and think something awful's happening, you know, like if you're out in the bush or something, you know, like really the body needs to express this energy. And I think that's a really healthy outlet. You're absolutely right. It needs an outlet. It's energy. That's, I think, the biggest thing to get about this planet. This is energy. And if we're sitting on it and holding it back and quivering, and I'm not dissing fear. I know fear. We all know fear. You know, and I'm not putting anyone down for feeling afraid. There's a lot going on in the world that can bring up fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no question about that, and I totally get that and understand that. I experience it too.
Yeah.
But,
the rise of fear and anxiety, you know, the amount of medication that's been sold to treat that has just gone through the roof.
And it was already high.
Yeah, so
wasn't it?
If we don't get that expression, that energy implodes.
It implodes, and it becomes depression, anxiety, exhaustion, you know, feeling helpless, feeling hopeless.
Yeah.
That I mean, if you look at the symbol, you know, it's the symbol for the masculine in the scientific world, and it's a circle with an arrow.
Yeah.
Bam! You know, it has to move. It has to physically move. It has to have expression. And all of us will have Mars in one of the 12 signs, in one of the 12 houses in our chart. And that can give us a really good insight and understanding as to how this energy functions and operates in each of us individually. You know, and some people will have very strong Mars, whether they acknowledge and express it or not. And some, Mars is there, but it's kind of not a major story in some people's charts, and for others it is.
Yeah, yeah.
So and he's not just moving quickly through his sign. He's hanging around, and he's hanging around here for a reason. You know, there is no mistake in any of this. The universe moves in mysterious ways. The planets, they all have their own timing. You know, our solar system, everything works in perfect accord with timings and reasons that we don't understand. So he's here till January. He's not going away, and he's stirring things up, and he's on fire.
Yeah.
So that's the message. And so I just feel like it's really important that we at least talk about it and look at it. And it, you know, and look, it's just that thing of, you might be seeing things on the news, seeing things online and social media that are stirring, because it will stir you up. You know, it's like it stirs up this, oh my God, what's happening? And it can stir up flashes of anger and fury, and you want to just lash out at something or someone. And you know, what can I do? Mars is action, you see, action. What can I do? What, if you know any Aries people, like it's all doing.
That's right.
So even if all that's available to us is to jump up and down and do some physical exercise or go for a walk or a run and just, you know, move the body, that's something. But if there is some action that you know you can take, it might be sending a letter, it might be posting something online, it might be having a conversation with someone that you put off or backed off from, you know, like action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was something else I wanted to talk to you about too, because I was reading about the finger of God, you know, when Sun conjuncts Mercury. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, that does, finger of God is, I've not heard it in relation to Sun conjunct Mercury.
Okay. Apparently on the 17th of August. Does that ring a bell?
Oh, that would be, a finger of God is usually a name that's often given to a yod in astrology. When you get a planet or two, but any planet there, making these quincunx aspects to two planets here. I'm just seeing where my fingers land on the screen. And they're connected by a sextile here. It's like a long, skinny triangle pointing to this point up here, to this one planet, or that's a finger. That's what's often called by people. It was a name that was coined decades and decades ago by an astrologer, and I think it took people's fancy. So is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I've heard it called God, and I just wondered, was there anything very significant about that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've looked at this over the years. I don't know that there's anything necessarily extra spiritual about it in terms of its, you know, that kind of popular name, the finger of God. And unless it's just that these two planets here kind of form the base of this long triangle. And this one up here is like a directional point. Like these can represent the foundation, the base, and that they are both sending energy straight up to this, or you know, I'm pointing like this way, but in your chart it might look like that, you know, located anywhere around the circle. But the thing is, they're both sending energy to this one point, whether it's one planet or two planets really close together. So, you know, on the Sun-Mercury conjunction, that might be the point of a yod, but I'm not. There is a quincunx to Saturn, but I'm not seeing them linked. Oh no, I'm not seeing them linked up to another point to make the yod.
Okay.
Yeah. So it might be interpreted by some as, you know, like that's the point of the yod, and like that's the finger.
Yeah, right.
You know, pointing in that direction.
Right. Okay. Oh, interesting.
But if you had something on that you've come across, like.
No, that's all I read was just something about the 17th of August was the finger of God, some in ancient times called Yod. And I just wanted to know what that it was. Just briefly mentioned. I thought,
oh, actually, I'm actually seeing there is one now if you include the South Node. Traditional astrologers would only use planets for these things, but I like to include the nodes with all the aspects. So, like on the new moon, you've got Mercury, Sun, Moon, sextile the South Node, making a yod actually to Saturn.
oh.
So that's possibly what you're referring to.
Right. I don't know what that means, but it sounds interesting.
Neither do I especially. but it certainly, in the light of this conversation, it certainly puts a big focus on Saturn, as if Saturn needed any more this year. Like he's front and center this year, very powerfully so.
Yeah.
But no, look, that is an interesting point, because when I was looking at this, and we were talking about Leo before, I actually meant to mention something about this Leo energy on the new moon is actually quincunx to the planets in Capricorn. And they're two quincunx signs are very different to each other. And Leo is just like this exuberance of the shining self, you know, and the creative being that can shine from us through the sun energy. And Capricorn is a lot more sober and serious and worldly and pragmatic and structured and organized, and can even be a bit dour, you know, that wonderful Scottish word. You know, while Leo's all sort of exuberant and shining. So those two signs are quite chalk and cheese.
Yes.
And so this new moon is, in some ways, it will be feeling the energy of that, like, oh God, that heavy Capricorn energy down there is trying to spoil my fun. And I think that's a kind of a pertinent reflection of what a lot of people will be experiencing. Like, I just want to play and have fun, and yet there's all this kind of hard, heavy stuff going on.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Oh dear. Interesting times.
Very.
Yeah.
Very, very. Just a little bit more about Mars. On the 25th of August, Mars will make a square to Saturn. So he's already made a square to Jupiter. Big explosion. He's made squares to Pluto's. There's big power plays going on in the world, like massive, very intense power plays. And then he'll make the square to Saturn, which is often a combination that speaks of tremendous frustration, because it's Saturn's nature, Mars's nature, especially in Aries, just want to go forward, get out of my way, no obstacles, no obstructions, don't tell me I can't, just get out of my way, here I'm doing it. You know, that will squared by Saturn in Capricorn saying, no, you can't, I won't let you. You know, and so there's this kind of stalemate energy of this willful Mars energy that naturally just wants to go forth and do it. So we can feel it as, I just want to get on, you know, people say, I just want to get on with my life. Yeah. I just want to get on with it. I just want to get on with my business, or get on with this or that. But I can't. I'm thwarted. I'm frustrated. There's all these rules and things that tell me I can't do that. And if I do it, there'll be consequences. Someone's trying to stop that energy. Yeah. And so that's very much, you know, what we're dealing with. And so that square is exact on the 25th. And then on the 10th of September, soon after the next full moon, which we'll talk more about, Mars will turn retrograde. So it's been a big piece of our conversation today, but it is a big piece. It's one of the main things that's actually, to me, it's kind of the big deal that's going on now until the end of the year, is this Mars story, this Aries story, the Aries Capricorn theme. So don't be surprised, folks, if you hear a bit more about this conversation, you know, coming up again and again, but I'll promise to include other things. I won't only talk about this. But it's a big part of the unfolding story. Yes,
yeah. I guess that Mars energy is in its own way pushing, even though, you know, we've got all these other things going on with Pluto and Capricorn and all those things. There has to be an activator too. There has to be.
That's right.
That activates things as it goes through.
Exactly, and it's sort of accelerating things, isn't it? Yes, you know, things are moving at breakneck speed.
Yes.
And yeah, and there's this energy of fight, you know. So that's in the field as well. You know, like it's almost like, you know, it's like there's a great battle going on, and people are sort of finding which camp they're in.
Yeah.
Literally taking, you can see that everywhere. Yeah. Everywhere.
Yeah.
and choosing like, well, I'm on this side or I'm on that side, and that's a battleground.
Yes.
And then there are swords and arrows and words and actions flying back and forth. You know, who's going to win the battle? And this is like, it's quite real in many ways, you know, like it is happening, and it'll be happening in people's lives. There'll be literally battles going on amongst friends and between family members, conflict.
Yes,
You know,
it's not.
big fiery arguments that can really cause, you know, significant rifts in people's relationships.
Yeah, it's not just a metaphor, is it? It's actually playing out in our lives.
It's actually, it is. It's real, and it's actually happening.
Yeah.
And then if we take that inside, and I think this is so important, like all of it, to keep coming back in here. Well, what is this in me? What is this reflecting in me? What is it showing me? What am I needing to see inside of me? And what am I battling with out there, but also in here? You know, what is my own struggle? And what is this inner warrior energy look like in me? Does it want to just smash heads, or is it trying to find the right path of action, or the, you know, like that's going on inside each and every one of us? And what choices are we making, and what actions are we taking?
Yeah, yeah. And I think in many people's lives, to have a harmonious life, many people just let a lot of things slide.
That's right.
You know, in relationships, in job situations, in politics, all sorts of things. But I think with this energy, it's giving us that bit of extra. No, don't let it slide. Stand
That's
up.
right.
You know,
That's right.
be a soldier here.
Exactly. Like there are times when we are called to stand and fight, you know, and literally, because that's what's needed. And you know, it's like when our freedom or our lives or our child or someone we love is being threatened, what are we going to do? You know, like, what does it take to bring that Mars energy through so that we actually do stand and speak or act? And because Mars at his best is the defender warrior, he's the protector. You know, he draws his sword of light and says, no, not having that. You know, I will do what I have to do to protect my child, my family. Not going out looking for a fight, but actually, like, I draw the line here, you know.
Yeah.
That's enough.
We're actually seeing that in these border closures in Australia, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
You know, protecting Queensland, protecting New South Wales. It's like, and it stamps on situations when you know, there are virus cases reported. Boom, we're onto the tracing and all that sort of stuff.
I know, and it's moving really, really, really fast. That's right.
Yeah.
And that's the hand of Big Brother. That's the Capricorn, you know, and using quite a lot of force, because Mars is also force. Using a lot of force, you know, bringing out the big guns, so to speak, you know, to enforce this. And so Mars is actually, in Carl Jung terms, a planet that's very important in terms of individuation, the individual, you know, fighting for the rights of the individual. Mars is a very important piece of that. You know, if we are going to individuate, Mars is very important in that. And if you look at a chart in terms of kind of Jung, like this Green, the wonderful Jungian astrologer, you know, all through the 70s, 80s, 90s, wrote all these amazing books. You know, very much this is the Mars and the Sun, you know, to individuate and come to know yourself. Stand for that.
Yeah. The thing about individuation, though, is to close that circle, is that we take the lessons that we've learned while we've stood back and said, this is who I am in comparison to the rest of my society, my tribe, etc. We've grown, but then is to come back together as a collective.
Absolutely.
And add back to that collective consciousness for
absolutely.
So I hope that happens, because things are moving in a way that are making us less like that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
We'll see how it plays out.
We certainly will. And it's day by day at the moment, like, yeah, very, and moving very quickly.
Yeah. So tell me that's all there is for August.
Yes. Oh, look, one little thing to end on a very different energy. Lovely Venus is in beautiful Cancer right now. So that's a very soft, feminine energy of, you know, the feminine, the heart, that nurturing energy. She'll be here for a few weeks yet. It's like that, the light of love is in Cancer, such a feminine sun, the mother, nurture, tenderness, softness. So, you know, all this talk about Mars and Capricorn, it's like pretty full on. But it's so important that we don't forget that soft, tender part of who we are, you know, and to stay in touch with that and to keep nourishing that as well, you know, especially in relation to our loved ones, you know, family, Venus and Cancer. You know, the nurture of our home space, those our nearest and dearest, you know, that very tender place.
Yeah, it's like beautifying our personal environment, isn't it?
That's right, you know, and fluff up the cushions and, you know, make your bed all lovely and soft and yummy. That's very, and you know, and go bake things, you know, bake nice things. It's so Venus in Cancer, you know, get the house smelling with, you know, lovely cooking smells, and that's not superficial, you know, that's very real and it's very important to our well-being.
Yeah, because that nurtures us at a completely different level.
Absolutely. And we are in a time of very high stress, and there is distress around and tension and pressure, and, you know, so we've got to use what's available, you know, like there's Leo energy, it's lovely soft Venus and Cancer energy. And when we come into the Virgo time, like to nourish our bodies, to get out on the earth, to work in your garden, to, you know, go for walks and connect with that beautiful divine feminine energy. Yeah. Light candles, do little rituals if that's your thing, you know, make a lovely altar if that's Virgo loves all of that.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's really good. I must go and work on my next altar.
Yes. You know, and bring in little things from the garden, you know, like on the Virgo. I mean, that's a lovely thing to do every month, you know, when the sun changes sign, to kind of, some people do it every new moon, but I think when the sun, you know, when now we're in the Virgo period, then you know, just change things up a little bit and, you know, get some nice pictures that you feel relate to Virgo for you, you know.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Babula, for your wonderful insights again.
A pleasure.
And
enjoyed it again.
Yeah, I'm going to soak up all that Venus and Cancer energy now.
That's right. I'm so glad I remembered to end on that.
I know.
That's right.
It's not all low either. It's just change.
No.
It's just
change.
It's
change, and it's quite intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Change is never, you know, it is often, put it that way, when it's out of your control is usually not that great.
That's right.
So it's just a matter of moving through the process, isn't it?
It is like birthing a child, you know, it's a very intense, full-on process.
Yeah.
And we're all in that, the whole of humanity's in that now, massive transition. And it's
hopefully the caterpillar will emerge out of the chrysalis to become a wonderful butterfly.
Wonderful, radiant, glorious butterfly. Exactly.
That's what I'm hanging on to anyway.
Me too. Me too. Individually and collectively for everybody.
So thank you again, and thank you everyone for joining us, and we will be back again in another 2 weeks to talk
We
about
certainly will. We will.
Yeah.
Bye everyone.
Bye everyone.